Okay, for the record, today is September 6, 2022. This is the 1:30 afternoon calendar. My name is Brad Gardner. I'm going to be the presiding magistrate court judge over this matter. This is position 9 on my calendar, Dominique Ponder versus Carl Pierre. Mr. Ponder is represented by Mr. Spoo. Mr. Pierre is represented by Mr. Hyman. Mr. Spoo, I'm going to ask you to swear in your client in a minute and then present your case, but give me just a brief synopsis of what you believe this case is about.
Yes, Your Honor. So my client, Mr. Dominique Ponder, it was just an average day for him. He was a passenger in the vehicle of Rock Erickson. He cannot drive, so he was using a ride share. The vehicle he was in made a controlled stop, and the defendant in the matter, Carl Pierre, did rear end the vehicle that my client was in at the time of the accident.
Okay, Mr. Hyman.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm looking at the accident report, and the vehicle that Mr. Ponder was riding in was cited for not having proper tag. And from my understanding from the report, because it didn't happen to have a diagram, that it was kind of like stop and go traffic. And so that to the extent that Officer Pierre made contact with the vehicle that Mr. Ponder was riding in, it would have been a tap. And according to the narrative, there was asked whether or not any injuries. There was reported no, but then later on, I think Mr. Ponder changed his mind and wanted some degree of medical attention. Where we are today, and I've kind of discussed this with Mr. Spoo, is that I looked at the complaint and it's deficient in some matters that I'll bring to the court's attention. And through some divine gremlin or whatever like this, the complaint didn't make it through the proper channels to where it should have, so that we're really looking at damages today more so. There's possibly some other issues that I can raise, but primarily damages in this case. And so I plan on bringing to the court's attention my the law as it relates to Mr. Ponder testifying about any perceived damages, things of that nature. But that's kind of the long and short.
Okay, so when you say that, is there going to be any question as to liability?
There may be a technical question as to that, Your Honor, that I'll raise depending on how Mr. Smooth presents his case.
He's putting a lot of pressure on you, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Spoo.
Well, Your Honor, I just kind of want to clarify in terms of today. It's my understanding that we were coming to testify as a default damages on hearing, not a evidentiary trial. And I just want to clarify that.
Let me see.
Because we moved for default back in November of 2021. I know we've been following up with Your Honor accordingly throughout that period of time. We submitted a proposed order for default and we continued to follow up, and the court asked for us to submit any type of evidence relating to damages in regards to this trial, not so much towards liability or a evidentiary trial in general.
Okay. I'm looking at the motion for default judgment. Looks like it was filed November 30th of 2021.
And Your Honor, while you're looking for that, if I could speak, from my understanding, even if you're looking at a damage situation, unless they're liquidated, then you have to have evidence on damages.
Yes. Yes, you have to hear evidence and testimony as it relates to establishing damages not easily ascertainable.
And that's just what I wanted to bring to your court's attention, because it sounded like defense counsel is coming in that I need to prove our case as it relates to liability and things in those regards. And I just wanted to bring to your honor's attention that we're here today on a hearing for unliquidated damages.
Your Honor, and here's why I kind of had a conversation with Mr. Spoo. With the city of South Fulton and being a city of South Fulton police officer in his official capacity, then he has what is called official immunity. And I don't know how many cases the court may have dealt with in this regard, but neither the city nor Mr. Can waive that immunity. That immunity is waived to the extent that somebody needs to mute it.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That immunity is waived only to the extent that it is shown that the city has purchased insurance. But before you even get to that, you have to properly plead that you have given the city an item notice. I raised that issue to Mr. Spoof offline, that I didn't see anywhere in the original complaint that they alleged they comply with an item notice. So that is something that we can't waive. And that was a defect in the original complaint that I brought to this attention.
So it's the allegation, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why I ask these questions, so I can get the four corners of the issue understood. Mr. Well, let me ask this question, and then someone is requesting my help in the other case. Is the allegation that Mr. Pierre was on duty at the time
Yes,
and he was driving?
a city of South Fulton police car.
Okay. Let me look at this, what this issue is, but I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Spoo. When I come back, I want you to address that issue with me as it relates to individual versus municipality.
Understood, Your Honor. Again, I just would like to state that, we filed this lawsuit in September, moved for default in November, and counsel showing up today at a hearing on damages and making these arguments. And I just wanted to express that, Your Honor.
No, and I understand, and my understanding, I could be wrong, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention so we can address it, is that from a situation of damages, if he was acting within his capacity as a police officer and he caused an injury to anyone in public, wouldn't the municipality be the appropriate person to sue?
Well, based on their police report, it doesn't specifically indicate that he was acting under his employment. It just says he was driving the vehicle. And as I'm sure you're aware, Your Honor, you could be off duty driving your police car.
Which is going to be the other issue that I was going to address, which is the jurisdiction. If we're here, if it was jurisdiction is based upon where Mr. Pierre lived, or is based upon where the incident allegedly took place.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see what Mr. Wetzel is asking for, and then I'll come back. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. I'm sorry about that. Miss Mary, just for the record, positions 7 and 8, they've reached a consent agreement. They're gonna need time, possibly by the end of this week. They believe that the case can be resolved in line with what we did before. I told them that we'll continue the case out for a month, and they should send, we'll continue the case. Excuse me, they should send the documents to you for my signature, and then that'll get filed and the case will be dismissed.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Spoo,
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe I ended on the question about, even from a damages standpoint, whether, and Mr. Ponder, I'm gonna place you on mute again, sir, because whatever you got going on in the background is distracting. Thank you. Mr. Hyman, are you there?
I am, Your Honor. I am, Your Honor.
Okay, so the question about assuming we're only here talking about damages, is Mr. Pierre the proper party? And I think I know the answer, Mr. Hyman, but I'm asking this to better educate myself. But go ahead, Mr. Spoo.
So, Your Honor, I think where we're at, again, is the police report doesn't indicate whether Mr. Pierre was on or off duty at the time of the accident. If he's off duty, he doesn't have any type of immunity. We served him in Ellenwood, which would be in Clayton County, which is where we are right now. The defense did not file an answer. They didn't file an objection. They didn't file a motion to transfer venue. They didn't file anything related to this lawsuit. We've been waiting since September. We filed the default in November. And again, counsel's coming in here in September of 2022. And now all of a sudden stating that his client was on duty.
Your Honor, if I may respond, it's the reason that I'm even here in September. That's because, and that's what was my opening salvo, is that due to no fault of my own and from talking to Mr. Pierre, but for getting notes on my side, I wouldn't even known about this. And so I started working for and I told this to Mr. Spoof, for the city of South Fulton on February of 2021. And in some shape, form, or fashion, his lawsuit that was served on him got lost in the shuffle, didn't make it to me in my office or ultimately to anyone else. So that's why I did the opening as I did, but that's still under 3633-1 doesn't Mr. Pierre nor the city can waive its immunity. And so that being the case, and also, and that's what I was looking for when I was offline. There's also a new statute that, to the extent that you are in that case suing a police officer in official capacity, then the proper party would be the city and not the officer. But I was just trying to find that statute. But I know there's a recent case and statute for that stands for that proposition. And Mr. Pierre is here on the line. He was on duty. He could testify that if the court wants to hear that from his mouth. But that's my understanding.
Where's that sound keeps coming from? So my understanding, frail as it may be, is that I'll apply, well, if Mr. Pierre was off duty, and I'm asking this question to you, Mrs. Spoo. If Mr. Pierre, let's say he was off duty, but he was traveling from work to home. Would that change your position?
I mean, at the end of the day, Your Honor, we don't, there's no discovery in magistrate court. So first of all, we don't know that at the time of filing suit. We don't know that period. And I don't think that it would change my understanding if he, you know, again, we don't have any testimony or anything related to this gentleman being on duty, coming home, or whatever it is. We don't have any of that. And again, we're here not on liability. We're not here to take Mr. Pierre's testimony in regards to evidence and what he's going to be arguing, whether he was or was not. We're here today on a hearing for damages for them being on default.
And I lost John.
Okay, I apologize, Mr. Spoo.
No problem, Your Honor. I think we lost you there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did. I was like, you're freezing, Mr. Spoo. And then it turns out it was me.
Oh, goodness. Did you hear everything that I had said, Your Honor, or do you need me to repeat what I said?
I think I lost you at the point of saying your argument would be the same.
Yes, Your Honor. What I was stating is, I believe at this point in juncture, my argument's the same. We don't have any testimony regarding Mr. Pierre's capacity that he was on that day. And based on the police report, it doesn't say. And we're not here today on an evidentiary hearing where Mr. Pierre is testifying about anything related to the trial. We're here today on hearing on damages. So that was the argument that I'm making, is that we're here to argue my client's damages, not here to have Mr. Pierre testify whether or not he was on duty that day or whether or not he was coming home that day. We're kind of just coming up with hypotheticals at this point.
And that's,
John, if I may speak.
1 second, Mr.
Okay.
Hyman. Yes, you will be able to speak, but 1 second. And that's a fair point. Theoretically, again, is helping me. Honestly, this is exercising brain muscles that I haven't exercised in a long time. So I'm loving this conversation. Let's say you sue Mr. Pierre and Mr. Hyman is certain that you're basically in the wrong venue.
Mm-hmm.
He can do a limited entry or he can just ignore it and come back later and say, well, yeah, you sued me, but you didn't prove that you're in the proper venue to be sued. So, and I haven't, and I am not making judgments on any of this stuff. I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to figure this out so I can be fair to both sides. Go ahead, Mr. Hyman. Oh,
I was trying to find the case I was looking for. Your Honor, you're on the right path, because no matter whether or not with the damages or not, the real or proper party and interest is always an issue in the case. That's not waived. So you are correct. And it's by statute now that when you are suing a police officer, other official in the capacity, that the true party would be the city. And, when I used to work for City of Atlanta, all places like that, they generally do the distinction between official and sovereign and these kind of different immunities that are put out there. And one of the issues by statute, i.e. the Constitution, and it's 3633-1, is that Mr. Pierre or whoever in their oversight of getting complaint, they can't waive the sovereign immunity of the city. And so to the extent that the city is the proper party, that is not waived. And so I think your honors are on the correct path. Also, I point that out to Mr. Spo, just looking at the complaint, that there's other defects in it as it relates to the proper in-litem notice. So I think, and I had mentioned this to Mr. Spo about him maybe perfecting that, but he indicated that he wanted to proceed today. So that's kind of where we are in my perspective. And we could do a bench brief on it if you would like, Your Honor, but that's just something that I'm just kind of talk to Mr. Spo about.
No, and that's what I was going to say, is that I'm going to accept evidence today, but I'm going to withhold judgment because this is something that honestly I'm going to have to look into a little bit more. Because I don't know the answer.
And Your Honor, just to kind of piggyback, I do think that maybe that's the best route. And the reason being is, again, whether, currently the complaint is set out against Mr. Pierre and he has his own insurance, correct? And, the proper avenue would be to move forward with testimony on damages. And today is not the proper avenue to make an argument. If counsel wants to make the argument, he's essentially making an argument without testimony, and he can't have any testimony today from Mr. Pierre regarding his status of on duty or off duty. So I just wanted to add that, Your Honor.
I don't think that's correct, Your Honor.
I mean, and the thing is, I can hear whatever evidence I want to hear, and I'll take your objection under advisement, Mr. Spoo, and at the appropriate time, I'll decide whether that is a relevant issue here. But I think, given kind of what I've heard so far, it would be appropriate to get more evidence than less evidence, because I mean, this is most likely will be appealed or could be appealed, and I want there to be a record of everything that is taking place, because even look at Mr. Pierre. If I, at some point, if I rule against Mr. Pierre may have an argument of bringing City of South Fulton in to say that they're responsible for covering this, or they have an insurance policy to cover this. But looks like we have two talented lawyers and capable of earning an income as it relates to this case, because I somebody's going to be responsible, and we'll go there. All right, so Mr. Spoo, we're going to deal with the issue of damages, and so I want you to call your first witness and swear your witness in.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point, I'm going to be calling Plaintiff Dominic Ponder.
Okay,
Good afternoon, Mr. Ponder. Can you raise your right hand for me? You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, let me stop you, Mr. Spoo.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ponder.
Yes, sir.
From the beginning of this hearing to where we are now, it looks like you've changed the name. as,
I don't know. I already have a Zoom account, and I don't know if it's logging me in and out. But you see, I've been in and out of the meetings.
okay, I'm gonna
My
change the
my
name
name
of
is Dominic
Mr.
Ponder.
I'm gonna change the name of Mr. Ponder. That'll just help me because I can see the name, and then there's no way in the world I'm gonna call you Mr. Verse Rare or whatever it said. Go ahead, Mr. Spool, I'm sorry.
No problem, Your Honor. Thank you for your clarification there. Mr. Ponder, we're here today regarding an accident. Do you remember being involved in an accident on September 27th of 2019?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you a passenger in the vehicle at that time?
I was.
Can you demonstrate for the court where you were sitting in the vehicle at the time of the accident?
I was in the back seat behind the passenger.
Okay. And where were you traveling at that time?
I know I lived on Terra Boulevard. I was going towards the strip club Rumors.
Okay. And was that road, Jonesboro Road Southeast coming to I-285 East? Does that sound accurate to you?
Yes,
Okay. Did you ever know the driver of the vehicle you were in prior to this accident?
I don't.
Okay. And can you tell me, was your vehicle that you were in, was it stopped at the time of the accident?
Yes,
Okay. And the defendant is present, Carl Pierre. Do you recall his vehicle making contact with the vehicle that you were in at the time of the accident?
yes.
Can you describe for the court on a scale of 1 to 10 what you felt the impact of the collision was at that time?
Really at about 7.
Okay. So it's your testimony today that you felt that the impact was a 7 out of 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me the way that your body may have moved in the vehicle at the time of the accident?
I was sitting straight up, but it didn't take like it was a regular 4-cylinder car, so it wouldn't take much for like my legs are long, so it didn't for it to touch the back of the passenger seat.
Okay. Did any part of your body make contact with the vehicle you were in after the accident occurred?
Say that one more time.
Did any part of your body while you're in the vehicle you were in make contact with any part of the vehicle
Yes.
after the collision or the impact occurred?
Yes.
Okay. What part of your body was that, and what part of the vehicle did it make contact with?
My leg against the chair.
Okay. What leg was that? Do you recall?
It was both of them.
Okay. So the accident occurs. Did you feel any pain after the accident occurred?
I just had whiplash, and I didn't really feel my pain until afterwards.
Okay. Can you describe what you mean by you had whiplash?
Like just blurry vision, kind of a minor headache.
Okay. Did you happen to take any emergency medical transportation after the accident occurred?
Yes, I went to Grady.
Okay. When was it that you took the emergency medical transportation?
From the scene.
Okay. And you went to Grady Hospital, correct? You went to Grady Hospital, correct?
Yes.
Was there a reason you went to Grady Hospital?
Yes, because I was having blurry vision, and then being albino, if that can lead to pretty much complete blindness if the impact is
May I object to?
I understand your objection. So, Mr. So I'll let both sides know. There are certain words that come in my ear and go out the other. I understand that unless you can set a foundation that Mr. Ponder has medical training to testify to the things that he's testifying to, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other.
Understood, Your Honor. Mr. Ponder, just specifically as it relates to your ambulance, I think my question just was there a reason you went to Grady instead of another hospital?
They said because I was asking about my head, I would have to go because of trauma.
Okay, so the EMT.
And let me stop you, Mr. Spoo.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it wasn't your choice to go to one hospital versus another hospital. That was a decision that was made by the personnel.
So, Your Honor, so he wanted to go to a different hospital that was closer to where he lived, and they specifically told him he had to go to Grady because it was a trauma center.
I know Grady's level 1 trauma center, and I get it, but that's what I was trying to understand. Because based upon your question, it seemed like he was making a choice as to where he went.
No.
But it sounds like you're saying that it was a decision made by medical personnel on the scene.
Correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Do you recall what pain that you were having, Mr. Ponder, at the time that you arrived to Grady?
Just a minor headache and eventually my leg.
Okay. What leg was that?
My right leg, to be exact.
Okay. What kind of pain were you having to your right leg?
Just different aches.
And you left Grady that day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were you given any medication?
I believe while I was there, yes.
Okay. Were you given any type of pain medication or muscle relaxers?
Yes. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Okay. So you after that you were released from Grady, correct?
Yes.
Did you end up seeking further medical treatment after that?
Yes.
The next day, on September 28th of 19, do you recall going back to Southern Regional, or strike that, do you recall going to Southern Regional Medical Center?
Yes, sir.
What was the reason you went there?
I was still feeling my leg aches.
Okay. And was that in your right thigh?
Yes.
Were you still complaining of headaches at that time?
It was more of my leg than the headaches by that time.
Okay. Did you receive any type of medical recommendations from Southern Regional Medical Center when they discharged you that day?
Your Honor, I've been a little kind of lenient on some of the leading and the hearsay.
Staying as the hearsay, leading, I generally gauge it on moving the process along. So I will pay attention to it. So I'm gonna sustain the hearsay, overrule on leading.
Mr. Ponder, so you were discharged, or strike that. Mr. Ponder, were you discharged from Southern Regional Medical Center that day?
Yes.
Did you end up seeking any further medical treatment after you left Southern Regional Medical Center?
Yes, I did treatment at Southern Crescent, I believe it's called.
Southern Crescent. And how long after treatment with Southern Regional Medical Center would you think that you went to Southern Crescent?
I believe it was within a week.
What kind of treatment did you receive at Southern Crescent?
It was different ones. Names to be exact.
Was it chiropractic
I'm sorry.
treatment?
I'm
Yes.
sorry. What?
Your
Did
Honor,
you
that's
say
leading.
he didn't understand?
I didn't understand the question.
Okay, do you understand the treatment you received?
I went to the chiropractor.
Okay,
I just didn't know the exact name of the particular treatment they did.
okay. And if you don't know an answer to a question, say, I don't know the answer. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Spool.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you recall how many times approximately that you sought treatment with Southern Crescent?
I don't remember the exact amount, but I know I did. I went a couple times for at least almost 2 months, I want to say.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank
Mr. Partner, I didn't understand that.
For about, I want to say it was about 2 months. I'm not sure the exact number of sessions. I can't remember right now. This was about over three years ago. So
Mr. Ponder, you first started treating with Southern Crescent, and would you agree with me that your final treatment date was November 27th of 2019?
that's correct.
So that was approximately 2 months exactly from your date of accident.
Correct.
Were you having any pain in any areas of your body after your final treatment with Southern Crescent?
A little bit, not too much.
Okay. Do you feel that the treatment that you received at Southern Crescent helped with the injuries sustained from the accident?
I wouldn't say 100%, no.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Just because I was still, feeling minor pains afterwards.
Okay. Mr. Ponder, I want to discuss with you your medical expenses related to this accident. Would you agree that your total bills from Grady EMS are $1,969.25?
Your Honor, I object in terms of improper foundation.
Mr. Spool?
Your Honor, I have submitted to you our medical bills in regards to this hearing. So I'm just expediting the process for Your Honor. If you would like me to pull up the actual bills themselves, and if counsel wants me to take the time to do so myself, I'd be more than welcome to.
I can say that you can did he incur bills or expenses as related to this accident? And if so, can he specify the amount of those expenses?
Understood, Your Honor. Mr. Ponder, did you end up having any medical expenses related to treatment you received after this accident?
I did.
Did you receive any type of medical expenses from Grady EMS?
Yes.
Do you recall the amount of the bills from Grady EMS?
I'm not by memory, but I'm pretty sure I have it in my documents.
Would you have any reason to disagree that the total bills were $1,969.25?
Objection, Your Honor. That's counsel testimony, not the witness.
Okay, so Mr. Spool, you have submitted these documents, and I don't necessarily need to hear it out of the witness's mouth as to whatever are the alleged damages. So we can move past that.
Oh, understood, Your Honor. Mr. Ponder, do you recall having medical expenses related to Grady Hospital?
Yes.
Do you recall having medical expenses related to Emory Medical Care Foundation?
Yes.
Do you recall having medical expenses related to Vulcan Imaging Associates?
Yes.
You recall having damages related to Southern Regional Medical Center?
Yes.
Do you have any understanding of medical bills related to Southern Regional Medical Group ER physician?
Yes.
And did you have medical expenses from Southern Crescent?
Yes.
Can you tell me about how this incident has affected your life?
I'm a music artist, so I had to stop doing shows at the time. And I was also promoting the strip club Rumors. I was doing there Tuesday nights. I was actually on the way there that day.
Okay. So you were employed at the time of this incident,
Yes, sir.
and it affected your ability to promote and work after the accident occurred.
Yes, sir.
How has this incident affected your life socially, if at all?
I'm just more cautious about the transportation I choose. Just being more aware. It's just making me be more aware.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You can finish. I'm sorry, Mr. Ponder.
No, that was it.
Okay. Have your injuries inhibited you from performing any type of daily activities?
Now, no, but then, like I said, I had to stop performing in general as an artist. So it was a period of time where it did.
Understood. Other than headaches and pain to your right thigh, did you experience any other pain related to the incident that you were involved in?
No.
Do you have any reason to believe that any of the injuries or pain that you've discussed are related to anything other than the accident you were involved in?
Your Honor, I object to that.
Sustain. Go ahead, Mr. Spooler.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you have any pain prior to the accident, Mr. Ponder?
I didn't.
So on the day of the accident, the second before the accident occurred, did you have any pain in your right thigh?
No, sir.
Did you have a headache at all prior to the accident?
No.
After the accident occurred, you had a headache.
Yes.
And after the accident occurred, you began to have right thigh pain.
Yes.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Before you start, Mr. Hyman, Mr. Ponder,
Yes, sir.
did you have a fracture of your thigh before?
Yes.
So you have experienced pain before this accident in your thigh?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hyman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ponder, my name is Vincent Hyman. I'm here on behalf of the City of South Fulton and Sergeant Pierre Call. As it relates to the date of the accident, can you see Mr. Pierre on the monitor, course monitor?
You're asking me if I can see him?
Yeah. You recognize him?
When he was on the camera, yes.
Can you see him? Can you see him now?
I only see you right now.
Okay. But you saw him earlier today during the conference?
Correct.
Okay. On the date of the accident, did you see him on that date as well?
Yes.
Was he in uniform?
Objection, Your Honor, outside the scope of prior testimony.
I'm gonna overrule it. I'm gonna let him go into this.
Was he in uniform?
Yes,
Okay. And you said you were a backseated passenger?
I was.
Were you a belted passenger?
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant.
Goes to damages and mitigation.
That's what I was gonna ask, Mr. Spoof.
I was objecting in regards to the evidentiary rule that whether my client's wearing a seatbelt is irrelevant.
Okay, I'm gonna overrule it. You may answer the question, Mr. Ponder.
Yes.
If you were wearing your seatbelt, what part of, what caused your headache? Did you hit your head on anything?
I didn't hit my head on anything, but my neck did snap forward.
Okay. And did you step outside the vehicle after the accident?
Said that, yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not a tow truck had to be called for the vehicle that you're riding in?
I'm really not sure.
Well, let me ask this way. Did the vehicle appear to be drivable?
I'm not sure, sir. I don't even
Okay.
drive myself. I was just a passenger.
Okay. Now, I'm going to briefly, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. If I can here. You won't be able to see it, but I can. You indicated that you went to Grady by EMS, correct?
Yes.
And your chief complaint was what, right leg pain and headache?
Yes.
Now, what, if any, treatment did they do when you were on the way to the hospital for Grady EMS?
I cannot remember the treatment, but I know it was for my my neck.
Okay. Once you got to the hospital, what, if any, treatment occurred there at Grady Hospital?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I know it is pretty much checked my head.
Well, let me ask you this. Did they do any type of CT scans?
At Grady, no.
Did they give you any hot or cold compacts or compressors at Grady?
I want to say they did. I can't remember right now, to be honest.
Okay. And do you recall the type of medication they may have given you, if any?
I can't.
Okay. Where was the next place that you sought medical care?
Southern Regional.
And what, if anything, did they do for you there?
I know they had checked my head as well, but my leg, and they had did a scan on my leg as well, on my thigh, my right thigh.
And is this the same what you previously injured?
Yes.
And when you say scanned, do you know if it was an X-ray, MRI, CT scan?
I can't remember if it was an X-ray or MRI. It was one of them.
Do you call any other treatment you may have received at Southern Regional?
Honestly, I would have to look at my documents to just refresh my memory of what I did that day.
Do you
Mr.
remember?
Ponder, I think the question was, do you recall any of the treatment? And it's fine if the answer is no. It's fine if the answer is yes. But saying I have to check my records.
Of my memory right now.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Hyman.
Did you seek any further medical treatment after Southern Regional?
Yes, that's when I went to the Southern Crescent.
And what, if anything, did they do for you at Southern Crescent?
I had sessions with the chiropractor.
When you say sessions, what would that entail?
Treating my right thigh, and also I want to say my neck.
Okay.
His question is getting at what did they do? Not like where did they treat, but was it ice? Was it warm?
It
contacts?
it was more than ice. It was I'm just not sure what the proper term is, but it was machines that pretty much worked the area of where the pain is.
And Mr. Ponder, during your medical treatment, did any of the physicians write you a note saying that you couldn't work?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I can't remember right now.
Hold on. I'm gonna overrule the objection. I'll ask the question a different way, Mr. Hyman. Did you miss work because of this accident?
Yes.
Was it something that the doctors restricted you from working?
Yes. I want to say the chiropractor has said it, but I can't remember off the top exactly what was said.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hyman.
Mr. Ponder, you mentioned copyright. Did he reduce that to writing?
I believe it was. I want to say it's in my documents as well. I would just have to go back and look.
And Mrs. Spoo, I'll go back to you, and maybe you can pull that up, but I don't see that in the records that we've been provided.
Your Honor, I don't have that. If my client may have it and didn't give it to me, that might be possible.
If I do have
it
that,
in our possession.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hyman.
Mr. Ponder, there was some reference or about you missing work. Are you seeking any lost wages today?
I did ask about it.
Well, let me ask you this then. How much at the time of this accident were you making?
Anything between 3 on the low end, 5,000 monthly, and that's between doing music and doing event coordination at Rumors.
Was that $3,000 to $5,000 monthly? Was that the answer?
That's correct.
Okay.
You said 3,000 to 5,000?
3 to 5,000.
Okay. And were you paid on a per event basis, or you pay hourly? How were you paid?
The event, I actually had 50% of the night that I ran.
And Mr. Hyman, let me stop you for 1 second, because I think I may need to just educate Mr. Ponder a little bit. I don't know how far this case is going to go, sir, but at some point, if they get into the discovery stage, they're going to be asking for, possibly asking for tax forms. And if your tax forms are not conforming to your sworn testimony today, you may be unknowingly placing yourself in danger. So just please be careful with your responses and be mindful of your responses. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hyman.
So, Mr. Ponder, what days are you testifying that you missed because of this accident or event?
Tuesdays.
Pardon?
Tuesdays. I
How
was
many
doing
Tuesdays?
it really went from those 2 months going into COVID. So pretty much I actually never went back. I actually never ended up going back to Rumors. It went from the time of me being injured to the time right into COVID, and they had stopped doing promoters as a whole.
And let me ask you this, since you mentioned it, this occurred during COVID?
No, this was before.
So the accident was before COVID?
Yes.
Okay. But at some point in time, this accident kind of carried over into the COVID period. Is that correct?
Yeah, of the period of me not working there. Correct.
And so even if you would have been not involved in this accident, was Rumors closed due to the COVID?
Say it again.
For example, say this accident did not happen, but COVID did. Would Rumors have been closed?
I'm not sure if they were open or closed. I just know they didn't do promoters.
But that was because COVID, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge of Southern Regional Physicians Management Group? What they may have done for you there?
I can't remember exactly what it was.
Okay. There's been testimony about you having a rod in your right thigh. When did that incident occur?
That was in 2010.
Okay. And for each one of the treatments that you're seeking, in this case, there was a medical person that administered that treatment, meaning a doctor.
Yeah, from each, I guess each hospital, yes.
Okay. What type of vehicle were you riding in as a passenger in the back seat?
I don't even remember that part, sir.
Was it a small vehicle, big vehicle?
No, it's small. It was small.
Young, that's all I have at this time.
Any redirect, Mr. Spoo?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any other witnesses that you intend to call?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you rest?
We're resting, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hyman.
Your Honor, and I can do this in the form of a bench brief or not, but I would be moving for a motion for directed verdict on causation, medical causation. And because I used to do this quite a bit, with the change in the rules of in 2013 to where we adopted the federal rules of evidence, we're aware that 24-8036 allows you to get documents certified. And so they come to the record as a hearsay exception. However, in Georgia, you still are required, if you need to have causation, to have the medical expert either do a medical narrative or either give you testimony, video, live. That's what we're missing here. And normally, case law stands for the proposition that if it is something of a simple nature, variety, then you would need expert testimony. However, I'm looking at over $9,000 worth of specials. The gentleman mentioned they're doing x-rays onto his own existing previously injured leg, his head, blurred vision, things of that nature. So to the extent that he's seeking to recover these medical damages, then I move that he's failed to prove on causation. Also, we've never waived from the standpoint of proper party and interest. And that's what I'd like to also put that in a brief that, but there's no indication from the original complaint that they properly gave analytic notes to the city or that Officer Pierre is the real party in interest.
That is, those issues are issues that I really want to take under advisement and to have an opportunity to actually do some research on this.
And
Yes, go ahead, sir.
And that was just on my DV, but as it relates to just my case in point, and then if the court allows us to brief it, as it relates to medicals as well, and this is, I guess I've been in my case in chief. While we know under the statute in Georgia that a person can give testimony about the treatment, it is a rebuttable presumption. And that's why I went into asking Mr. Ponder about what type of treatment was entailed for that particular reason, because it is a rebuttable presumption. And so to the extent that he can offer more than I was just there type of testimony, then I believe that he had met the burden in terms of proving his medical expenses specials. Also, at this time, just for the limited issue as it relates to real party, I'd like to call Sergeant Pierre just asking one question, whether or not he's on duty on the day of the accident.
So I'm going to accept he was in a city issue police car
Yeah.
and that he was wearing his uniform. That's certainly enough to get you arrested for running from the police, whether the police officer was on duty or not. So I think it should work in the opposite direction. There's Mr. So I'm going to bring something to your attention.
Yes, Your Honor.
That I don't try to hide the ball with people. I want to be as prepared as possible and to give people as much notice as possible. And I can't find it now. But it's from there's something I observed that was a Southern Regional record, and it talked about your client's damages. And unless I can find it right now, I'm going to have to just paraphrase it. But it said that there was discomfort in the leg, and it said a mild headache, and it said something else. And right now, when you know it, when I want to bring it, it's in the 92 pages that were filed as part of the complaint. But so let's assume that Mr. Hyman loses. When we're talking about damages,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the treatment that was given as it relates to what is appropriate amount of damages. But it was, and I believe it was from Southern Regional, and it was just sort of a discharge summary explaining what happened.
Yes.
So that'll be something that I would love to hear about, as to whether, assuming Mr. Hyman is wrong and damages are to be ordered in this case, the amount of damages, of course, is something that the court has to look into.
Yes.
And so it didn't appear from how I read that Southern Regional discharge summary that there was like damages. And with the right leg, and the fact that the right leg was injured before, those are things that I will be taking into account if I rule against Mr. Hyman and I rule in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to hear from you as it relates to those issues.
Well, Your Honor, I mean, we presented numerous pages of medical records. There's diagnoses, not only in his leg, but in his cervical spine and lumbar spine. And again, we're standing on there. They were certified records. And that's our position, that he was injured from this accident. Again, I don't have the case law off the top of my head. Counsel's making, bench arguments verbally and not via, motion, and allowing time to respond for multiple things. And again, as much as I like to think I'm versed, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be proud and say that I would like to look up what he's discussing and make my own arguments against the same.
And I have not made a decision. And that's the purpose of this, is because I believe that these are novel issues. Not novel, but these are issues that I'm not well versed in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to give both parties my best effort,
mm-hmm.
so that I can then, learn, read the case law, learn what I need to know. I used to be a personal injury lawyer at one point in my life, and I understand what it entails and going through certain things. So I'm not going to give anybody short shrift. Everybody's going to get their fair day. And if I knew the answer, I'd tell you, or believed I knew the answer right now, I'd tell you what I believe I know. I don't know the answer right now, but I'm going to educate myself. And Mr. Hyman, you're going to, of course, have to share your arguments with opposing counsel, and opposing counsel share your arguments with Mr. Hyman. And then I want everybody's best foot to come forward so that I can make sure that Mr. Pierre and Mr. Ponder are treated fairly.
Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate you.
Okay. All right. So do I get to end this marathon day and now got to spend a couple hours signing orders? So is there anything else, Mr. Ponder?
No, sir.
Is there anything else, Mr. Pierre?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything else, Mr. Spoo?
Not at this moment, Your Honor.
Is there anything else, Mr. Hyman?
Your Honor, if the court desires and we want to make just kind of written submissions on the points of law that we raised, what would be the best way to get that to Your Honor?
I'm gonna put it in the chat.